From the smallness of the response, we got a few calls. It tells me most people realized what was said was off the wall. But in case anybody was rattled by it, or someone comes up to you and says that something was said, or did you hear that, you'll know how to deal with it. It's also a chance to share on principles of soundness, not only of doctrine, but also in generally how we handle things in the Lord. I know a lot of you are happy because you want me to do more of these broadcasts, and so enjoy it if that's the case. Let me just tell you, it was regarding the Book of Mysteries, and the accusation might as well have been that the Book of Mysteries was based on Nazi teachings, or that it endorses cannibalism. That's how grounded in reality this charge is. Craziness is nothing new. Ridiculous accusations are nothing new, and that's not the first. It wasn't the first. It won't be the last. Anybody, again, can say anything. What does it mean? Nothing. Apparently, from what I heard, and actually heard for myself, a man with a conservative news and Christian site on media said something on the air. Now, I'm not questioning his sincerity. I do not. I wish God's will. I wish the best for him. But I have to address what he said. And though he certainly mentioned my name and bore a very crazy false witness on the air concerning the Book of Mysteries, I'll seek avoiding mentioning his name for his sake. It's not about him, but we have to deal with issues, methodology, the actions. I did seek to reach out to him. I just got something back, so hopefully pray that God will work that all out. So again, nothing about the man, but it is about this that was said, and what was said was lunacy. Apparently he was getting into the exposing of what he saw as Kabbalah influence or conspiracy or influence of the Kabbalah, which I'll get into what that is, in the world. And apparently he heard the Book of Mysteries. You hear the word mystery, and then it's written by a Jewish person, mystery, Jewish, put together, Kabbalah, conspiracy. Now, what he said is, when he finally got the book, it confirmed what he was thinking, which means he already had got it into his head beforehand that this was based on the Kabbalah before even reading it or having it, which is a hint of that it's going to go way off the wall. And again, I'm not saying he is, I'm saying the statement was. And so then he said, well, this proved that it was. What was it? He looked at the table of contents, he saw the chapter names or the mystery names, and it has some Hebrew words. I mean, there's chapters and there's titles totally in English, titles with some Hebrew, titles with some Greek from the New Testament, because it's opening. The Book of Mysteries is opening up the Bible, and there's so many things you can't see in the original that are so cool of God. And so when he saw Hebrew, apparently it was a red flag. Took the Hebrew word and added the word Kabbalah and Googled it and found matches that had the Kabbalah, and so the Kabbalah made mention of the word. So he said that proves it. On the air, he said the Book of Mysteries is 95% Kabbalah. Well, okay, how much does the Book of Mysteries have to do with anything like the Kabbalah? The short answer is absolutely zero, nothing, nada. It has as much to do with the Kabbalah as it does with the Communist Manifesto or Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf, which is absolutely nothing. I'll get back to his quote, proof in a few moments. But first, it's impossible, as I've always been totally against the Kabbalah as any source of truth. Just this weekend, someone came up, we had Resurrection Weekend, someone came up to me, I never saw them before, came up and said, oh, hey, I'm studying Kabbalah. I immediately said what I would say to anybody is don't do that. If you're seeking for any spiritual truth, you can't do that. It's one thing if you're doing research for another purpose, but to be studying it for truth, the Kabbalah is always my consistent position on it, always been. Kabbalah is totally whacked out. You can only find the truth in the Word of God, spiritual truth, not in the Kabbalah. It has crazy things in it. It has spiritually crazy. It at parts approaches Eastern religion or pre-existence of the soul or pantheism. Whenever I've met someone who says considering reading it, I said do not. Unless again you're doing it for apologetics. I'll get into that in a moment. That's true with anything. I've treated the Kabbalah as I would treat the Quran, the Communist Manifesto, anything. Every one of these books, I would know enough to have an accurate idea of what they're about so I can rightly address it and deal with what's needed. Thus, I've read about them. I've looked over some quotes from them to verify as needed, but I don't have the time to be going through all of it. thus with the Kabbalah, I know just enough about it. I know about it to be able to speak about it, to warn where I need to be, or samples to be able to quote from if I need to. Now, thus, not only do I warn people about seeking truth in the Kabbalah or anything like that, but it's doubly impossible that the Book of Mysteries have anything to do with this because I've never even read the Kabbalah as far as reading through it. Now, as with any one of these books or writings that I consider to be not true or false, the only exception of reading it for anybody is for the purpose of research or apologetics or evangelism for the sake of the gospel if the Lord leads you. That would mean either to refute it, to prove it's wrong, to witness to those who believe it, Muslims, Orthodox Jews, communists, whatever, or to use it as a hostile witness to show the contradictions where it's unwittingly actually proving God, because even in that you can see some amazing things. And for instance, there are also rabbinic writings, which not the Kabbalah. There's the Talmud, which is not the Kabbalah. That's general writings of the rabbis, which has also historical things or contextual things that have been used for ages by all most good commentaries and evangelical writings on the Bible. That gives you the context, gives you things where we can understand the times of Jesus. In fact, there's something called Alfred Edersheim's The Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah, the most classic work of scholarship in English, popular work of Jesus' life, and it totally uses the rabbinic writings. That's standard. Plus, it's also standard apologetics, first used by Paul on Mars Hill in Athens, when he specifically used a quote from a pagan hymn, not once, twice, a pagan hymn or pagan poem to Zeus to witness for God to the Greeks in Athens. I once did an apologetics series, an evangelical series, showing how the rabbinical writings actually contradict the rabbinical claim that Jesus is not the Messiah, or that Messiah didn't die for our sins, and that they actually say he did die for our sins, or that the Jewish people can't believe in the Trinity. There's something in there that says God is 3 in 1. That's special apologetics, and that special series, using these contradictions to disprove the claim against Jesus and use it for Jesus. Of course, a whacked out fringe, even in the kingdom, took that and said, aha, he's endorsing the rabbinical writings or the Kabbalah. Well, which is as crazy, as false as someone accusing Paul of being a believer in Zeus, a Zeus worshiper, because he used a quote to prove the gospel. We can quote from anything, anytime, period. Basic hermeneutics, to quote something doesn't mean you agree with something. Just as a lawyer with a hostile witness on the stand. My stand in warning Kabbalah has remained the same from the beginning, just as Paul's stand on paganism remained the same from the beginning of his preaching. And now what happened, another thing was said on the air on this program. It was said you can't use the word mystery because there's no mystery in the Bible except the second coming. Really? Well, what Bible are we using? What Bible is that? The Bible uses the word mystery many times. Just one example of Paul, but we speak God's mystery, or we speak his wisdom in a mystery, the hidden wisdom which God predestined before the age to our glory. We speak God's wisdom in a mystery, the hidden wisdom of God. Unless someone, says that they know everything about God, then there's nothing for God to reveal, which would be basically heresy because God is infinite. There's no end to the wonders of God. There's no end to the wonders of his word. There's no end to what we need to seek him for. Then of course there are mysteries. Of course God reveals things and gives us insight that we didn't know before. That's basically it. It's all in the mystery of salvation. Now, what about the proof text, or the proof method, which he said he took the name of it, he took a Hebrew name, most likely it's Hebrew, I'm sure, took a chapter name, put the word, and then added Kabbalah to it, Googled it, and then saw search results where you see this, the Kabbalah using the word or anything like that, or the concept we're talking about. Listen, again, I'm not questioning his sincerity. But if you take a Hebrew word of normal usage, or even not normal usage, from a major piece of writing, like the Book of Mysteries, and then take another source of Hebrew writing, or discourse of any good length, and that is, I'm saying at this point, the Kabbalah or anything that's Hebrew, you are of course going to find the same words, Hebrew words, used in that language, just as you would with English. That's a function of language and of probability. Further, if the work that uses a Hebrew word, or a Greek word, or anything, but it's using it because it's talking about the Bible or biblical concepts, And then you take another source of Hebrew writing that deals with also that comments on the Bible, even if it's whacked out like the Kabbalah, then all the more you're going to find some of the same subjects or words talked about. That's a function, again, of language and probability. What does it prove and mean? Absolutely nothing. Example, in the Book of Mysteries, you have titles totally English, titles with English and some Greek words from the New Testament, a Greek and then titles from the Hebrew. You have a title called Elohim, Adonai, Ruach, Asham, Baruch Atah, Rachamim, Aliyah. And now, if you don't know Hebrew, you could say, okay, this is weird. Well, this is the language of most of the Bible, and that Jesus would have understood. One of the chapters is called Aliyah in the Book of Mysteries. And he probably saw it as something strange or mystical out of the word Kabbalah. And lo and behold, he found 300,000 matches. Well, what does that prove? He said, there it is. The book, Mysteries, has some link to what does that prove? Zero. Take the word Aliyah and now add the word Bible, and you won't get 300,000. You get 400,000 matches. And on top of that, because the word Aliyah is a biblical word. It comes from the Bible. It's a Hebrew word. It means the ascent. It's when you read the Song of Ascents. That's the word Aliyah. It's from the Bible. But according to this method, this very crazy method, what it would tell you is that the Bible, since it uses words that the Kabbalah uses, then the Bible is Kabbalah. Which, imagine going on the air and saying that. And imagine, I would hope those listening to him wouldn't go out and burn their Bibles. The fact is, it's simply a biblical word that anybody can use. Any source can use. Another example from the Book of Mysteries, the word Asham. Now again, sounds mystical. Well, if you don't know Hebrew. So you would get 7,000 matches. Does that prove any link between the Kabbalah and the book, or even zero? You take Asham, put the word Bible next to it, you get 52,000 matches, over 7 times the amount of matches. Why? Because Asham is simply the biblical Hebrew word used in the Bible, the original word for the guilt offering that first appears in Leviticus. Now, I don't care if Joseph Stalin comments on the Bible, by the method that was used here, it would mean that anybody who comments on the Bible using the same word is a communist. Well, that's how completely crazy this is. Let's go further. Another title from the Book of Mysteries, apply this message, is the word Ruach. Now you do that, you put Ruach and Kabbalah, you get 60,000 matches. But now type in Ruach in the Bible, you get 360,000 matches. Why? Because Ruach is simply the biblical word for the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. But let's go further. If you remove the Hebrew, and from that you translate that back, Ruach, it becomes now Spirit, that's all it means in here, that's the biblical word for Spirit. Put Spirit and Kabbalah, English word, and you get now 400,000 matches. You get more matches in English. And so by this crazy reasoning, you then could go on the air and accuse every Christian book that has the word Spirit in it and say it's Kabbalah. Or for that matter, every pastor who's ever used the word Spirit of being a practitioner of the Kabbalah. And just if you needed any more to see how crazy and erroneous this whole thing is, I went the Westminster Confession of Faith. This is a standard Reformed theology, but standard Orthodox of Reformed theology. It has some things that believers of different things would not agree with, but it clearly has standard things. One word there it has 460,000 matches to the Kabbalah. Another has over 1 million matches to the Kabbalah. So does that mean the Westminster Confession of Faith is now Kabbalah? The Billy Graham Evangelistic Association Statement of Faith. Check it. One word, over 600,000 matches to the Kabbalah. So what does that mean? Billy Graham is a practitioner of the Kabbalah. You got to burn his books. The Apostles' Creed. The Apostles' Creed has one word, over 600,000 matches. That means the Apostles' Creed. I mean, this is crazy. Further, I took one of the words that he uses a lot, the man who said this, and I even wrote this to him, and said, okay, let's put Kabbalah next to that and see how, and it turns out there's over 4 million matches, more than any that was found for anything else. What does that mean? I should go on the air and say that he's a practitioner of the Kabbalah. Crazy. And then call for book burnings, which he kind of did. That's the kind of stuff that led my father to escape Nazi Germany as a boy. That is the mentality that has no place in the body of Messiah. And according, to the method used, it would have to mean burning Bibles, which is crazy. And Jesus used the same words, the same Hebrew words, as in the Book of Mysteries, Elohim, Ruach, Adonai, all that. So it would have to be saying that most of what Jesus said is Kabbalah, so it's all crazy. So again, this is just to show you, beyond any doubt, and again, not to question the man's sincerity at all. And but what was said on the air was a great error and wrong. I'm praying he has the integrity as a man of God to go back and make that right. Now, let me say this. For anyone who was rattled over, it's being rattled over nothing. And I got more of this when The Harbinger came out, which is a totally different book, but got the same things. A small group of people, generally on the fringes, I'm not commenting on the man who said this now, but got accused of everything. And it goes on the web, and people get, shaken. I was accused of replacement theology. What is replacement theology? It says that God is finished with the Jewish people and replaced them with a church. Now, how do they get that? Well, because the Harbinger speaks of that there are things that happen in Israel in ancient times that are now happening in America. So obviously in their mind, okay, that means that America replaced Israel. Crazy. But crazier, I don't think they realize I'm Jewish. So to believe in that, I'd have to say that I believe in God replacing me with myself. Now, what else? I was accused of Masonry, Freemasonry. Why? Because in the Harbinger it mentions a tree, and Masons also mention trees. I guess they Googled tree and Mason. My great aunt Mimi had an apple tree. She was always tending to it, so I guess that means my aunt Mimi was a Mason. And they threw in Kabbalah and Gnosticism just on top of that. Another accusation, Mormonism, that I was a Mormon, basically, or secret Mormon, or British Israelism. Again, why? Because Mormonism says America was founded from Israel, so therefore they saw America and Israel obviously has to be Mormon. Prosperity doctrine. I don't know how they got that one. Right now when I preach, I'm wearing shoes. Someone said, you got to get new shoes. That have to be 20 years old, and I'm fine with it. The picture you see in the Harbinger, kind of the famous picture of me like this, what studio was that taken? That was taken at Sears Budget Photos. And the only reason I had it taken at Sears Budget Photos was because there's no photo studio at Walmart. Otherwise, I would have gone to Walmart. What does this tell you? And I'm using humor a little bit, and that is that it tells you this. People are crazy. People are nuts. And even that gets into the kingdom, unfortunately. And often people project what's in their hearts or what they're dealing with onto what they're seeing. Some may be sincere, some may not be sincere, some may be malicious. But it was the same way with Paul. He was accused of everything, and so with the Lord. And it's not the beginning, it's not the end. That's part of life. And that's part of, unfortunately, it's part of the kingdom sometimes, or people sometimes going off in the kingdom. But the enemy is the accuser of the brethren, and he'll use anything he can. But we cannot be like children tossed by everything that people say. We're to be stable and solid. Some principles. Beware of looking for evil, because if you look for evil, you'll find it. Because whether it's there or not, you'll find it. Because the enemy will be more than glad to assist you in dwelling on evil. And he works through appearances, works through things that look like they're connected and they're not. And make sure you always know the context. The enemy will always take things out of context, just as he did with the Lord. Do not judge by appearances, judge by truth. Paul quoted from a hymn to Zeus. Does that mean he's a Zeus worshiper? Of course not. It's God looks at the heart and the purpose. And don't be quick to judge or to accept the judgments of men. Do not accept judgments that are based on guilt by association, which applies in numerous realms. Do not accept judgments that are based on trigger words. You heard a certain word and this one said this, and suddenly that's somebody, for instance, we know that Eastern meditation is wrong, is off. That doesn't mean the word, somebody uses the word meditate, it's a bad word because the Bible says meditate on the Lord. Be a Berean. You don't need somebody to make judgment for you when you have the Word itself. You need to read the Word of God yourself and see, and God is able to speak to you, and if you've known something, you don't let someone just rattle you because they threw something out. And in another sense, you don't need to have somebody tell you what a book says when you have the book. You read it for yourself. Don't put yourself on the judge's bench to judge the body. It's human nature. And we have a million ways of rationalizing it to try to make it spiritual. But God has a way of humbling those who do. And do not panic just because somebody says something, or somebody flakes out, or anybody can say anything. When the enemy attacks, and this is true in your life, if you're in God, it's a good sign. And actually, it's often a sign that what he's attacking is very much of God. I was actually getting a little concerned because the Book of Mysteries it's been so hailed and so blessed and praised by believers, it didn't get so much attacks. I was getting a little worried. Now I can rest. It tells you it must be powerful. And let me turn this for good. If you haven't gotten the Book of Mysteries, and this is not to plug for, but get it, you're going to be blessed. And as far as the Book of Mysteries, so you know what this is about, the Book of Mysteries has been, and I only say this for those who were rattled, hailed from every side, and from Baptist leaders, charismatic leaders, Christian leaders all over. Of course, it's totally biblical and totally Christian. And in fact, and I'm only saying it for this reason. I normally don't like saying it. I don't like bringing it up because I feel like I'm pushing something. But for you, for the purpose of helping in this, I was on the air with somebody who's been in the Lord, I don't know, I believe 50 years. I mean, a scholarly man, a leader, solid, down to earth, totally grounded. And he told me that the Book of Mysteries, he picked up the C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity 50 years ago, changed his life. He said no book has had that effect until the Book of Mysteries. He put C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity, and then as far as no Christian book, as the Book of Mysteries. We're getting responses from all over, Christians who their love for God has been set on fire again, who are being revived, who are being amazed, who are being encouraged, strengthened, set free. And what I'm really blessed about is people are giving the Book of Mysteries to non-believers as a gift, and they're getting saved. And I haven't heard of any non-believer turning it down yet, because it looks like a real gift. So I'm so blessed with that. It will open up the Bible to you in ways, open up your life. And if you take what it says and take the applications, there's scriptures on every page, it'll change your life. And let me just, I want to kind of close it with a positive thing. The Book of Mysteries can speak for itself. And I'm just going to give you an example of what's in it. And I particularly am going to choose ones with Hebrew words in the title, which is not all of them, but just because of what was said here, let me give you a taste of one. One is called, this is from the Book of Mysteries, it's called The Mystery of the Tamid. It was mid-afternoon. He took me into a chamber in the middle of which was a large golden stone model of the Temple of Jerusalem. We were viewing it from what would have been the temple's eastern side, the side closest to the altar of sacrifice. Now this is what you shall offer on the sacrifice, said the teacher. He was reciting a passage of Scripture. 2 lambs of the first year, day by day, continually. 1 lamb you shall offer in the morning, and the other lamb you will offer at twilight. This, he said, was the law of the Tamid. Tamid was the name given to the sacrifices that were to be offered every day in the temple. So each day the offerings would begin with the sacrifice of the morning lamb and finish with the sacrifice of the evening lamb. All the other sacrifices would come in between the two. Was there a specific ritual to the offering of the Tamid, I asked? The morning lamb would be offered up at the 3rd hour of the day. With its death, the temple trumpets would sound and the temple gates would be opened up. Then at the 9th hour, the evening sacrifice would be slain and offered on the altar, at which time all the sacrifices would be finished. So the morning lamb, I said, was offered at the 3rd hour. What time is that? 9 o'clock, said the teacher. And when was Messiah crucified, he asked. The same hour, 9 in the morning. So as the morning lamb was slain on the altar, the Lamb of God was lifted up on the altar, the cross. And the trumpets were sounded to announce the sacrifice, and the temple gates were open. And the evening lamb, I said, at the 9th hour, what time was that? 3 in the afternoon, he said. Isn't that when Messiah died on the cross? It was. So the sacrifice of Messiah began with the offering up of the morning lamb and ended with the offering of the evening lamb. And it all took place during the 6 hours of the temple sacrifices. In between the 2 lambs, from the first sacrifice to the last, the Lamb of God, said the teacher, is all in all, covering every moment, every need, every sin, every problem, and every answer. He is the Tamid. You never told me, I said. What does Tamid mean? It means continual, daily, perpetual, always and forever. And so he will be there for you always, and will be your answer continuously, every day, always and forever. For Messiah is the Lamb, and not only the Lamb, but your Tamid. That is the mystery of the Tamid. Let me give you a little bit more. I pray you're blessed. Let me give you a little bit more with that. And I'm going to give you one called, also with a Hebrew word, called Ruach. Again, what is Ruach? Ruach is the Spirit. So listen to this. This is Ruach. This is day 4. And you have hundreds of these, for every day of the year. He took me to an open desert plain. It was a windy day, so windy it was almost violent. Come, said the teacher. He was asking me to walk against the winds blowing, so I did. What is it like to walk against the wind, he asked. It's a struggle, I replied. In the language of Scripture, he said, the word for wind is ruach, but it has another meaning. It also means the Spirit. In Hebrew, the Holy Spirit is the holy wind. So what happens if you walk against the wind? It creates drag, I said. It becomes harder to walk and you get tired. In the same way, he said, when you walk against the Spirit, it creates a drag on your life. Everything you do becomes harder. It takes more energy to do less. So when you go against His Spirit, you're fighting against the wind. And you can't walk against the direction of the wind without getting weary and worn out. And what way is the direction of the wind, the Spirit, I asked. The Spirit, he said, is the Holy Spirit. Therefore it blows in the direction of the holy and blows against the direction of the unholy. Now try something else. Turn around. Walk back the same way you came. So I did. I was now walking in the direction of the winds blowing. And what was that like, he asked. It was much easier, I said. That's because there was no drag. You were walking in the direction of the wind, and the wind helped you walk. It moved you ahead. It made your walking easier. So when you walk against the wind, it creates drag. But if you turn around, then the wind gives you power. So it is with the Spirit. If you turn, if you change your course, if you repent, if you walk in the Spirit, then the drag will disappear on your life. Then the Spirit will empower you and will move you forward. And then everything you do that you must do will become easier. So if you walk in the Spirit, I said, life will go from being a drag to a breeze. Yes, said the teacher. For those who walk in the Spirit, the wind is at their back. Okay, one last one, and we just edited this because I misread, I forgot to read a sentence here. One last one is, I pray you'll be blessed with, is Rachamim. And this is day 56 in the Book of Mysteries. And here's what it says. Do you believe, said the teacher, that God has mercy? Yes, I replied. Of course, you've taught me that. No, said the teacher. God does not have mercy. With all respect, I said cautiously, that's not right. It was the first time I ever contradicted him in such a direct way. Prove your point, he said. I was just reading the book of Daniel. In it, Daniel prays for God's mercy on the people of Israel. He says, to the Lord our God belongs mercy and forgiveness. It doesn't say that, he replied, not in the original language. It says to the Lord belongs Rachamim. What is Rachamim? Some would translate it as mercy, but Rachamim is not a singular noun, it's plural. It doesn't mean mercy, it means mercies. It means that God's mercy is more than mercy. God's mercy is so great, so strong, and so deep it can't be contained in a single word. Rachamim means that His mercy has no end. What about the word for sin, I asked. What do you mean? Is it by nature singular or plural? The word for sin, said the teacher, is singular. But the word for mercy is plural, I said. Then what does that tell you, he asked. That no matter what my sin is, no matter how great, the mercy of God is always greater. And no matter how much I've sinned, no matter how many sins I have, the mercies of God are more than my sins. Yes, said the teacher. So don't ever make the mistake of thinking that you've exhausted God's mercy. You never have. You never could. And you never will. He will always have more mercies than you have sins. More than enough to cover every sin and to still have enough compassion left over to love you forever. For what the Lord has for you is not mercy, but rachamim. I pray that blesses you. And that is a taste of what the Book of Mysteries contains for you, what it's all about. And if you don't have it, get it. You're going to be blessed. Even if you just heard all this talk, I believe the Lord will use this for good. You will be blessed. Now, by the way, keep me in prayer. Right now, I'm working on the next book. I'm writing it right now. God willing, it will come out in September. It's going to be like The Harbinger in many ways, and it's going to be explosive. So pray for me for that. And this probably attack is going to be nothing when this book comes out. It's going to be called The Paradigm. So pray. I'm kind of staying up late to do this now.